Finally tonight here, our Made in America is back, and so is a longtime summer tradition, hitting the open road.
Thousands of R-vees are ticking time bombs, and owners don't even know it. Cracks are forming in the used market. Resale values are sliding, and some rigs practically unsellable by 2026. The warning signs are everywhere. Huge dealer markdowns, repair delays, and quiet trade-in rejections piling up. If your R-vee is on this list, you could be sitting on a fast-depreciating liability. And if you're thinking of buying one, hit the brakes. These 10 models are falling off a cliff, and the reasons go deeper than you think. Forest River vibe. Something about the Forest River vibe becomes clear the moment you walk past a row of them sitting on a dealer's back lot. You feel that tension, the kind that tells you a product is not holding its ground. In the case of the vibe, the warning signs did not appear overnight. They built up through a mix of rushed production cycles, long repair queues, and a flood of unsold units that pushed dealers into territory. When inventory stacks up for months, the financing interest does not wait. Managers start trimming prices just to keep their balance sheets alive. Several lots carried as many as 6 to 8 months of vibe units during the late 2024 season. And that kind of aging inventory forces markdowns that ripple through the entire market. What begins as a dealer problem quickly becomes an owner problem, because every discount on a brand new unit cuts a matching slice out of the value of the used ones parked in driveways. And then there are the known weak points. Owners have documented soft wall spots, roof flex near air conditioning mounts, and trim gaps that widen as the structure settles. None of these issues are catastrophic by themselves, but together they paint a picture of a trailer that demands attention long before most people expect. Whenever warranty claims cluster within certain production runs, dealers respond by reducing trade-in valuations. They cannot afford to gamble on units that might return for multiple repairs. This is where the real cost shows up. If a new vibe gets dropped by $8,000 to $12,000, the used versions must follow the same downward line. You lose negotiating power instantly, and here's the thread that ties it all together. A product that loses confidence loses value. The Forest River vibe is slipping because the market sees the risks before the seller does in the current market right today. Winnebago Mini Winnie. There is a moment standing beside a Winnebago Mini Winnie when you realize the shine on the surface does not match the pressure underneath. This motorhome has carried a dependable reputation for years, but the numbers moving through auctions and trade desks tell a different story. When rental fleets released large batches of their E-Series based units into the market, everything built on the same foundation felt the impact. The Mini Winnie did not escape it. Those identical chassis rigs sold for prices in the low 60,000s, and once those figures appeared, every lender recalculated risk. Financing tightened, valuations slipped, confidence thinned. Owners who purchased at $90,000 or more now face a simple equation. When a buyer sees rows of former rental units priced down near $58,000, they expect your privately owned model to fall in line. They are not wrong to think that way. The market listens to the lowest consistent number, not the highest hopeful one. Every public listing becomes another piece of evidence, another reference point that shapes perception. Once a model becomes easy to undercut, the downward pull accelerates. Service reports added another wrinkle. Some Mini Winnie units returning from hard mileage showed early wear on cabinetry, seals, and suspension components. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to make cautious shoppers wonder what long-term upkeep might cost. Dealers watch those details closely. When reconditioning bills rise, trade offers drop. It is not personal, it is survival math. The Mini Winnie's challenge is not about quality failing overnight. It is about volume reshaping value. A market can absorb a few discounted units, but not fleets of them. When too many similar rigs appear at once, the floor falls faster than owners expect, and recovery rarely follows in the near future. If the Mini Winnie sets the tone, what comes next sharpens the picture even more, pulling us deeper into the patterns shaping the current marketplace right now. If this breakdown is helping you see the market more clearly, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to stay ahead of the shifts, and leave a comment with what you have noticed happening in your area recently. Jayco Jay Feather. Step up to a Jayco Jay Feather, and you can feel the promise it was designed to deliver. Lightweight towing, easy handling, and a layout meant to welcome new owners. Yet beneath that friendly first impression sits a pattern the market has grown increasingly wary of. Lightweight trailers depend on thinner materials, and when those materials begin showing wear earlier than expected, buyers take note. Floors that soften near high traffic spots, cabinets that shift slightly during travel, and roof sections that flex around vents or air conditioning mounts all contribute to a slow erosion of confidence. None of these issues stand alone as deal breakers, but together they form a picture that influences trade desks and resale values. Dealers track these trends carefully. When a model begins returning with repeat cosmetic complaints, they adjust trade valuations to protect themselves from repair expenses. A Jay Feather that once held its number now meets a different standard. Reconditioning costs climb, margins tighten. That reality pushes dealers to offer less, even on units that appear clean at first glance. It is not sentiment, it is business arithmetic, shaped by service patterns. Another factor affects the Jay Feather's trajectory. New inventory continues arriving with discounts already attached, especially on lots carrying more stock than expected. When a fresh model gets reduced by amounts between $8,000 and $12,000, the used versions must follow those reductions. Buyers armed with online listings immediately compare, and once they see the lowered baseline, negotiation shifts in their favor. Sellers feel that shift instantly. The result forms a loop that feeds itself. Visible wear invites lower offers. Lower offers signal risk. Risk leads to more hesitation, and hesitation pushes values down another step. The Jayco Jay Feather is not declining because it failed outright. It is declining because the market no longer sees it as a reliable bet over time. With that in mind, the next model deepens the story, revealing how aging design choices influence every financial outcome ahead. Keystone Outback. There is a particular moment when you stand beside a Keystone Outback and notice the subtle signals the market has been responding to. It starts with insulation performance, the part most buyers never test until the first cold night makes the heater run longer than expected. The Outback carries a design lineage that looks appealing, but its insulation ratings have struggled when compared to newer competitors. Owners at winter campgrounds have shared records of electric bills climbing above $200 for a single month, a cost driven by thin walls working against falling temperatures. Those numbers matter because they influence long-term affordability, and affordability always shapes resale. Dealers track operating costs closely. When a model becomes known for higher utility demands, hesitation grows. That hesitation appears in trade valuations that drift downward as reconditioning costs rise. The Outback's aging insulation design forces the furnace and air conditioner to work harder, and that extra strain shows up in service reports documenting premature component fatigue. None of this appears in a glossy brochure, yet it becomes clear once owners begin comparing notes at campgrounds and on public listings. Every added expense influences the market's willingness to pay. Another pressure comes from inventory itself. During the late 2024 season, several lots reported carrying more Outback units than projected. Excess stock triggers price reductions on new models, and the moment those reductions appear, used values follow. When a brand new Outback gets discounted by amounts between $8,000 and $12,000, a one-year-old version must reflect that change instantly. Buyers anchor their offers to the lowest available number, and once that number shifts, the seller loses negotiation power. All of this leads to a simple truth. The Keystone Outback is not losing ground because it lacks appeal. It is losing ground because the cost to keep it comfortable has outpaced what the market is willing to absorb in the market. Thor Windsport. Stand beside a Thor Windsport long enough, and you can sense the strain running beneath its polished exterior. This rig carries a long list of features that look appealing on a showroom floor, but once the miles begin to add up, those features shift from conveniences into obligations. Full wall slide systems, multiplex wiring networks, and leveling components each bring their own set of demands. When everything works, the experience feels smooth. When even one system falters, the repair costs begin stacking faster than most owners expect. Service centers across several states have documented repairs that climb into the $5,000 to $7,000 range for a single job. One invoice recorded a leveling system service reaching $6,800, and that number did not include follow-up adjustments. Expenses like these ripple through trade-in valuations. Dealers cannot gamble on rigs with repair histories that stretch into four figures with one malfunction. Their first move is to reduce offers. Their second move is to move inventory quickly before another issue appears. Wear patterns add another layer to the Windsport's financial trajectory. Heavy slide mechanisms place additional strain on wall structures and seals. creating points that require frequent attention. Multiplex wiring, while modern in theory, complicates troubleshooting when minor faults appear. Each hour of diagnostic work becomes an invoice that pushes buyers toward caution. A used unit entering a trade desk with these potential needs is viewed as a risk asset. Risks lower value, and value does not return once confidence slips. Inventory trends compound the problem. During the late 2024 cycle, several lots carried more Windsport models than planned. Excess stock triggered markdowns on new units. And once those markdowns landed, used values had to adjust downward. Buyers always anchor to the lowest visible figure, and once that anchor drops, every competing unit drops with it. In the end, the Thor Windsport's decline is not about appearance or reputation, it is about mechanical complexity shifting the cost burden onto the next owner, and the market responding with caution in this environment. Coachmen, Freedom, Express. Walk around a Coachmen Freedom Express, and you can feel the tug of war between what it was meant to be and what the market now knows it is. This model built its reputation on approachability, but the units produced during the accelerated cycles of 2023 and early 2024 began revealing patterns that buyers and dealers could not ignore. Slide seals showing early separation, cabinetry swelling from minor moisture exposure, and exterior panels fading long before expected service intervals all contributed to a growing list of concerns. None of these issues stand alone as a fatal flaw. Yet, together, they form a record that influences every trade desk this model touches. Dealers keep detailed logs tied to specific production runs. When multiple units return with the same recurring problems, valuations adjust downward to offset the projected reconditioning costs. A Freedom Express entering a trade lane with even minor evidence of soft spots or seal fatigue immediately meets a reduced offer. This is not emotional decision-making, it is arithmetic shaped by warranty histories and the visible cost of bringing a unit back to retail condition. The more a dealership spends preparing a model for the lot, the less they can justify paying upfront. Inventory pressure made the situation sharper. Several large lots carried more Freedom Express units than originally forecast, and excess stock always triggers markdowns. When brand new units fall by 8,000 or even 12,000, used units must reflect the revised baseline. Buyers anchoring their expectations to the lowest public price will not negotiate upward, and private sellers feel that resistance immediately. Every discounted listing becomes another reference point, pulling values down, where cost and timing intersect in a way that pushes the Freedom Express into a downward slope. The model is not collapsing because it lacks purpose. It is collapsing because its build patterns from recent years created financial uncertainty that the market no longer overlooks. With this momentum established, the next model on the list reveals a different kind of shift, one shaped not by material fatigue, but by a reputation stretched beyond its limits. Grand Design Imagine. Step inside a Grand Design Imagine, and the first impression still feels reassuring. The layout is clean, the fixtures look familiar, and the brand name carries weight from years of earned respect. Yet beneath that steady reputation, a shift has been unfolding, one shaped by expanding production volumes and service delays that began stretching longer than most owners expected. As more units reached the road, reports surfaced of underbelly panels sagging, slide mechanisms drifting out of alignment, and window seals losing their compression earlier than anticipated. None of these issues define the model on their own, but together, they signal a change the market takes seriously. Dealers rely on real data, not sentiment. When service centers begin logging repeat repairs on similar components, trade values adjust. A Grand Design Imagine that once commanded confidence now meets a different calculation. The cost of replacement parts rose during the past cycle, and extended turnaround times created backlogs that made buyers hesitate. Every additional day a unit remains in a repair bay becomes a financial weight on future resale, and dealers respond by lowering offers to protect narrow margins. Inventory trends added more downward pressure. Several lots carried higher than expected stocks of Imagine models through late 2024, and excess inventory always triggers reductions. When brand new units fall by amounts between 8,000 and 12,000 to clear space, used models must follow those revised benchmarks. Buyers anchor negotiations to the lowest public price, And once that anchor drops, sellers cannot rise above it. The grand design. Imagine is not losing ground because it failed its mission. It is losing ground because the combination of slower service, heavier demand on parts, and stacked inventory reshaped its financial profile. Market confidence does not vanish instantly, but once it softens, recovery rarely happens quickly. With this shift established, the next model reveals how aging construction can shorten the timeline between ownership and unwanted depreciation in the market moving forward. Before we continue, make sure you subscribe so you do not miss the next update. The market is moving quickly, and each new shift affects timing and value in ways that matter. Staying connected gives you a real advantage today. Gulfstream Conquest. This one reveals a pattern the market no longer overlooks. Light construction choices give the model its approachable price, yet those same choices shorten its lifespan in ways owners increasingly document. Flooring sections soften near wheel wells, cabinetry coatings fade after limited mileage, and exposed underbelly areas show early wear from road moisture. None of these issues alone define the model, but together they influence every trade conversation. Dealers calculate reconditioning risk before offering a number, and the Conquest carries more uncertainty than most rigs in its class. Service records show soft spots forming earlier than expected, and technicians often note framing stress around heavily used entry points. Each invoice becomes a receipt that travels through the valuation system, pulling numbers downward for anyone attempting a trade. Another pressure point is visible on auction sheets, where several Conquest units have been rejected outright due to floor deterioration and compromised substructures. When a model appears regularly in the rejection column, banks adjust lending assumptions, and lower lending confidence directly impacts private resale. Inventory cycles add even more downward pressure as overstocked lots trim prices to reduce aging units, forcing used models to chase the new discounted baseline. Once those reductions appear on public listings, negotiation shifts immediately because buyers anchor every offer to the lowest credible number they can find. The Gulfstream Conquest is not failing due to one flaw. It is failing because the cost of restoring trust outweighs what the market is willing to absorb. Every repair trend, every inspection log, and every discounted listing feeds into the same conclusion, and that conclusion shapes the model's financial trajectory far more than brand reputation alone. With each passing month, more data reinforces the downward slide, leaving owners facing tough decisions as they watch values drift lower, with no indication of reversal anywhere on the horizon today. The financial outcome grows clearer each day. Thor Chateau. Look closely at a Thor Chateau, and you begin to understand why the market has turned cautious around it. This model entered heavy circulation through both retail channels and large rental operators, and that wide distribution created a ripple effect that owners still feel today. When rental fleets retire units, they do not trickle them out. They release dozens at a time, sometimes entire batches, all built on the same Ford E-Series foundation, all carrying similar mileage patterns, and all priced to move immediately. Once those units hit public auctions, they set a new baseline that every privately held chateau is forced to follow. Auction logs have shown retired models landing in the mid 40,000 to low 50,000 range, and those figures rewrite lender assumptions overnight. A buyer walking into negotiations does not compare your well-kept unit to its original sticker price. They compare it to the auction records showing a lightly used chateau listed for far less than you ever expected. Once that comparison is made, the negotiation ceiling drops sharply, and it does not rise again. Beyond pricing pressure, the chateau carries a maintenance pattern that worries trade desks. These former fleet units often show wear along suspension components, cabinetry fasteners, and entry door seals, and when dealers see these issues repeat across multiple trades, they adjust valuations downward to protect their margins. Even privately owned units face the consequences of that data because banks and buyers treat all units within the line as sharing similar risk. Inventory cycles add another layer. When new chateaus accumulate on lots longer than projected, dealers begin marking them down by 8,000 to 12,000 to clear space. The moment those reductions appear, used models must match the new pricing reality. Buyers never negotiate against the original number. They negotiate against the lowest published one. The Thor Chateau is not losing ground because its purpose shifted. It is losing ground because the combination of rental saturation, rising wear indicators, and aggressive dealer markdowns pushed it into a value path that becomes harder to reverse with each passing month right now. Fleetwood Flare. Owners began noticing small issues early, and those issues grew into patterns that the market no longer overlooks. Roofline sections have shown gradual sag. Leveling components have failed under modest strain, and and transmission complaints have appeared across several production runs. Each repair by itself is manageable, but together they create a picture that affects every trade valuation. Service centers have documented invoices reaching 6,800 for leveling system work, and those numbers travel quickly through dealer networks. Dealers react by lowering offers to protect margins, because a single malfunction can erase any profit they hope to make. Auction data reinforces the shift, with several recent flare listings dropping from 129,995 into the low 80,000 range. Once those figures appear publicly, private sellers lose leverage immediately because buyers anchor their expectations to the lowest number available. The Fleetwood Flare reaches lots needing multiple inspections, raising reconditioning costs and lowering trade values. Lenders notice, reducing confidence and pushing resale downward. With repairs, valuation data, and inventory pressure aligned against it, each listing and auction confirms a pattern that continues driving the model's outlook steadily lower each day. If you're R-vees on this list, now you know what's coming. Drop a comment below and tell us what you're seeing in your market. Like if this saved you some money, and subscribe to stay ahead of the next wave. The crash isn't over yet.